Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is our second annual celebration of Hanukkah from darkness to light. We're going to have some dark poems. We're going to have some light poems. Maybe we'll transition within them. Um, we've got a great lineup tonight. I'm so happy for you all to be here and to join us. Hanukkah is like one of my favorite holidays. It's one of the ones that in my dysfunctional Jewish family that we really did kind of stick to. So it's one of those things that I just really enjoy, and bringing community together, and I think it's always just nice to see everybody that I only see in text format most of the time. So it's nice to see your faces, and I can't wait to hear your poetry. So to start us off, we have Julia Kolchinsky Dasbach is going to start us off with her poetry, and let's give a welcome to Julia.
Hi, everybody. It's just Julia Kolchinsky now. Big Jewish announcement of my name change. So no longer the German part of the name, just the Ukrainian Jewish part. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote last year and that I revised today. Hi, Donna. She already read the revision today. And in the poem, I talk about the Gemnids meteor shower, which happens in December around this time, as well as Phaethon, who is the god of shine and light. You use too much light in your poems. Yes, but it's the final night of wick and wax and perhaps miracle. And in the Slavic bard song, the candles cry, softly cry, плачут, тихо плачут, свечи. And we can't keep up, can't extinguish the fire. И погасить огня мы не успеваем, не успеваем. And the wax isn't afraid, the song has told me. And I hear, don't be afraid. And when the Gemnids are at peak fall tonight, their streaks like lashes on my children's cheeks are born of Phaethon, a dead or rock comet, certainly once a child who, so in love with light, took the reins of his father's chariot like wicks and flew close enough to scorch the earth, then far enough to freeze, until the mightiest god, to protect his kin, shot electric light through the young boy's chest, and a star fell into the river. But light is always a body, and yes, I use too many bodies in my poems. And my children, having held flame close enough to scorch their budding hairs, are asleep. And the candles in that song burn down, quiet, weeping. Сгорая плачут, тихо плачут свечи. And above, a singe of shooting stars already inside us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was amazing. Um, I'm the next poet, so I'm gonna start with a Hanukkah adjacent poem. It's not full on about Hanukkah. Actually, neither of my poems are fully Hanukkah poems. This one is called "Dead to Me." I wrote it I guess a week ago. Dead to me. My brother tells me about crows holding grudges for 17 years, which seems short until I realize it's their entire lifespan. Now I'm thinking of baby crows just out of the nest, watching closely for the first disappointment, how each family whispers a history of grievances. My father's father left him a face and build his mother couldn't forget, so that his mouth turned downward, his beautiful hazel eyes dimmed. My father's eyes are black as feathers in the only photo we have of him, standing in pinstripes behind my father lighting the menorah we light every year. For Jews to be named after the dead keeps their memory alive, a grudge against loss. My father's father took my father's name and gave it to a half-brother he'd never meet. Such a name is a ritual, a sacrifice, a cutting of losses. You're dead to me. My father told me this story when I was 13, the same age he was then. Dead and just bar mitzvahed. A boy with dying eyes. You're dead. To me, you're dead. To me, you're dad. You're dead. To me, dad. I won't forget. My other poem is I've been working on a series of poems with golems and have them reading, Jewish thinkers and existing in places I want them to be. And this one's kind of uh, existing around, I don't know, like around Kristallnacht, I think, and that era. So, but it has images that I think are very Hanukkah-esque. The golem collects fragments of light. The moon reveals its battered face to denuded trees, their limbs white, bruised with whirled knots, bodies claimed by snow. I try to hold them, roots that close like a fist. A boy runs across a cobbled street to find his mother. His feet cover pools of light between each stone. A father frets over the sound of windows breaking, splintered doors. I hold them like a stream parted around a stone, or the mud that embraces. They stand as points of light. I cannot tell if their bodies sway with prayer or the shudder of loss. In this light, even shattered glass can look like stars. Thank you.
Hmm.
Our next reader is Rosebud Benoni.
So I'll read this poem that I wrote last year for the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust. It has like the longest name, but it's part of the Holocaust Memorial. And if you get a chance to go to New York, there's a beautiful exhibit called the Garden of Stones, and that's the exhibit that they commissioned this poem for. And all you need to know is that these trees are planted in the stones. They're meant to be dug out as they die. But there's one that's lingering, and his name is Darwin, and he's just the pluckiest little tree. When you are the arrow of time, who will carry light of my eyes, and who will take root in osseous mire? And who to remember burning steel wool only makes it heavier, since probability is not potential, and all that happens can never unhappen. The only law to bear Talmudic measure, for all of us too are part of every red giant and failed star whose beyond stretches without forever, like a tree. And stone makes darkness a home, a soul survivor, until even silence is no longer. Here in the garden of stones, imagine the years it will take to uproot the dead again. Remember, honor should never be easy, and this is how we were meant to remember. And remember, the brain is mostly dead weight, and to experience real time means the mind fills the blanks, minced with memories. So truth as it goes is always behind. And remember too how hands never actually touch. It's just electrons repelling one another. And it's all the same, really, how we remember. Is how we reach each other, is how these boulders hold the dead of our living. Every one of us wandering in orbit and never alone and never staying still are electrons. All the diaspora of their nature is all nature and an endless tracking for sign. So the dead rest, but we can't stop knocking for what made us human, kept us turning around and beholden to fight the arrow of time. All reprise, no surprise. Not one of us can scour the taking of time. There is only your one way of symmetry, your entropy, all reach and no feeling. Not like us, no, not like my people, our people of the book. Our people who hollow memory into impossible rock with the water so close at the edge of this aisle, my electrons, the buzz of the gulls crawling across the battery as you pummel forward, arrow of time. Forsaking even Saturn, ever losing her rings. Billions and billions of lumps, ice and rock raining down, metallic wheeze. Since gravity, like yourself, must win. Even with 100 million years left to keep one's name, not recognition, but place. So many great planets, excess of moons and beltways, your onward is the only, and so much love already lost and distant and in delicate quiver. And yet I still believe here, exactly right here, is memory moving forward. Not unlike Darwin, the lone survivor, who even you cannot imagine less than our own sun, a dwarf star of low luminosity, how he began a dwarf oak sapling, the last to thrive in boulder stone. He is the strength of our people, your strange caress and a reckoning. We dream as a new tendril emerging in the coldest of realms without atmosphere, a seed that might never know grass or kindness or those who died for it, unknowing the sum of care taken to remember everything we need is here on earth to remember. Thank you. Oh, and shout out to the Museum of Jewish Heritage. Thank you so much for commissioning me.
Thank you, Rosebud. Our next reader is Marina Blitzstein.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Jared. I'm going to bring the darkness, so thank you for allowing that in as well. I'm going to read two quick poems, relatively quick. This is called Daughters. Daughter of depression, child of metaphor, whose mood meant blue, whose madness meant another chance, whose mother had no meaning. Whose kid are you, Holocaust offspring from which the war kept raging, whose mother marched through winters to sit still in our kitchens, whose name survivor haunted granddaughters with their living children, and one dead child who never had language. Daughter of depression who mothered grief itself, if grief is not depression, if life is not decline, it's life either way. I tried my best not to give her anxiety as inheritance, tension masked as grace, but I cared anxiously. I cared with every tissue in my body. Daughter of depression wants a house, a home to navigate inevitabilities, illness, dying, accident, a fire from which to fuel survival. Otherwise, she's no survivor. Otherwise, her child died in a divided place, whose cells divided inarticulately, not carefully, not given limits. Daughter of depression, child of smoke and fires, raging like wars, wet and hot from fever, clawing at purified air. I willed you like I willed my mother from her captors, like I sought to liberate all women from their men. I pulled you down from wherever war goes, finally to sleep. In another time, another heart starts beating. And Autumn Walk. Do you think she's in everything? Her last breath was so far from here, her face just an echo now. Do you think she's this duck plodding along, lost, alone by the side of the pond? Is she these bright red trees she never got a chance to see? Or the pale setting light, itself now an echo? I don't know. I pass a face that's not her face. I take some pictures of a family we didn't get a chance to be. Is she all of these, the life we got and didn't, the season changing and what it becomes? Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Our next reader is Mariah Cohen.
Jared, thank you so much for organizing this, and it's a pleasure to read with so many wonderful poets tonight. So my first poem I'll read too is called Proof of Life, Holding the Associated Press, March 24th, 2024. There is no place to hide from news of dead bodies in a couplet, so she covers herself in loam, clips last year's vines, a stiff hay from lattice, twines her fingers in clumps of roots, shakes. She reminds herself that hands love before the rest of the body, that in guiding the pear tree along lattice, pulling stray seedlings, or later, their plates a boneyard and glasses empty, trawling her knuckle into the ache of her boyfriend's shoulder. She is asking to stay. 8 peppers in the greenhouse, 6 tomato plants lengthen and spindle. The earth erupts twofold each night as she fastens zip ties to chicken wire. After the rain, florets tap the bedroom window like knuckles. Not yet, not yet. It takes a dry spell, some kind of want for roots to burrow enough that she stops worrying he will tell her to leave. One rind they eat whole, another they dress in sunglasses. They have been dying since they were born. She hears on a podcast about the delayed reality of opening a newspaper. Someone she loves is both alive and dead. She cannot reconcile the bloated cheeks, the features swimming inland as her own. And then my second one is called Murmuration. So we're going to stick with birds tonight. So of course, that's the flocking pattern that occurs when usually thousands of starlings kind of fly together in this swirling, chaotic pattern. Murmuration. Silhouettes over old proving grounds, a cyclone of guttural rising as swallows twist and scatter, fold the air, then meet again. Wind flushes blue stem and fescue, empties reeds. Whisper in my ear the way dark wings thresh to find a jet stream. Crouch in eaves, line the nest with June grasses and feathers. You warm my hands in your pockets. Your tongue knocks against the roof of your mouth. Tell me how swift bodies sense each other's turnings. Preempt spaces, darting as though there has never been anything else. I am taken by such excess.
Thank you, Mariah. Our next reader is David Ebenbach.
Hey everybody, and yeah, thanks so much, Jared, for pulling this together. This is like already so moving, and it's lovely to be reading with you. I'm going to read a poem that is not exactly, well, it's not specifically a Hanukkah poem, but I chose it because it's fairly recent and because it's about eating. And for me, Hanukkah is a season of radical levels of eating. So this is sort of about that. It's called You Shall Eat and Be Satisfied, and it's based on that line in Deuteronomy 8:10. And you shall be blessed at your table and in your chair, and blessed in the eyes of the cook who laid the table and the carpenter who built the chair, and in the leaning forward and the leaning back. And you shall also be blessed in the nighttime when you wake with indigestion. And you shall be blessed again in the hungry morning when you stand over the sink with leftovers in your hand. Blessed you shall be in the doctor's office, in the blood tests, and in the blood pressure cuff. Blessed in the chastising eyes of the doctor, and you shall be blessed in the bathroom mirror. And in the comparisons you shall make to the photographs of magazines in the magazine stand that stands in the world. And blessed on the treadmill and the elliptical, and in your ready sweat and aging unfamiliar body, you shall be blessed. Blessed in the unkind mirror, blessed in your unkind eyes, but you shall be blessed, yes, in the eyes of the cook who laid the table, and the farmer who laid the field, the laborer who laid the conveyor belt, and you shall be blessed by your own curling belt. Blessed by the ever harder work of the belt and the blood, struggling to bless us in the morning and in the night. And most of all, you shall be blessed by your tongue, that simplest of blessers, the one who leaps with praise at every syllable of good food. You shall be blessed by that simple praise, and you shall inevitably be blessed by the one who laid your body into your body, which has an end that is always coming, whether you have been blessed or whether you have not. And you will be blessed if you bless the food, if you bless the body, if you eat and are satisfied, and if you eat again and are satisfied again. If you know above all that blessing is both reward and injury, and if you know that these blessings are all that there is to receive, you shall surely be blessed. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Sarah Ettlinger.
Can you hear me? Okay, just making sure. All right, so I like people who have said before, Jared, it's amazing to have this and to that you invited me and we're all here blown away. I too, like David, am going to read another food poem. Um, and it starts with like latkes, so it's kind of uh, a Hanukkah poem, but it moves. So it's called Ode to Oil. To the hot oil sizzling in the pan as I stand here and make dinner. Chicken cutlets, fish cakes, latkes. To the oil that burns and chars the pan, so I have to scrub it clean, scour black scars, and dump the remains in an old coffee can, kept under the sink like my mother did. To its scent that hangs in the air for days. The way memory clings to my mother's heavy, enameled cast iron pan, where she too fried latkes and taught me not to scorch the omelets. To the oil that shimmered and bubbled loudly around their edges. To the Saturday mornings we tried not to wake the house, while my father and I fried eggs for breakfast with bacon. How the hot oil smell wafted clear through my whole childhood and arrives here now. To December's hot oil full of latkes, how it crisps and browns them. The oil of those potato cakes we make to remember the miraculous oil that burned in the menorah, not for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or four, but 8 days, and how everyone danced for that beautiful oil. That hot oil that lit the temple and glows on my face and my sons and all the children since. To that drop of oil that forms a small blister on my finger, reminding me I am still alive. I am here in this kitchen. I can feel pain and the comfort of cold water, and I can be here now as I clean out the skillet because of all the women before me who stood in front of hot oil and slicked back their hair and wiped their hands on their aprons or on rags or on nothing at all, and who, thinking about their mothers, their fathers, their children, held out a plate and said, "Here." Um, all right, the next one I'm gonna read if I have time is one I am working on a sequence. Jared knows about this. This was I have been obsessed with the figure of Esther from Purim, and I sort of have her and reimagined in different scenarios. And this one came out in Spoon River last year. So I'm gonna read the one that started it all. Um, Esther in the suburbs have time. Doesn't want to carpool. Has to. Has time. Thinks a lot about time. A lot about wants. Wanting. Watches organization videos online. Makes lists to Gabby. Thinks about Valerie. Misses Valerie. Talks to Tracy, who's running for school board. Considers running for school board or some other office. Texts husband thinking about running for school board or some the snow falling. Tell son to look at the snow falling. How much time spent as a child staring out the window at the snow. Its whole orchard of diamonds. At gulls soaring overhead. Thinks I've seen a gull in a tree. Thaws chicken for dinner. Doesn't want to make dinner. Wants dinner. Loves eating. loves the nurture of it, the heat from the plate bleeding to the skin, the tongue, the body, recognizes how the body disappoints, thinks about the difference between what she says and what she does, how the difference moves through time like an oyster growing a pearl, wants to call home, does not call home, decides to pick up dinner, tells the woman in the drive-thru, "I like your nails." The woman in the drive-thru says, "Thank you. Hollywood nails across the street. So gentle." Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next reader is Helene Fisher.
Thank you, Jared. It's so wonderful to be here tonight with all of you. Um, so this poem has an epigraph. In 2024, as in past years, the arts and crafts chain Hobby Lobby won't sell any Hanukkah merchandise. So I wrote this in response. To a store that won't carry the light. I have my own wicks and wax and toy with a miracle spun like a planet wandered by my great-grandparents from Minsk to Queens and in a covered wagon to Calgary. So you will not unmake me with art and craft like a weekend project, bits and bobs to scrap, overpaint my history in acrylic layers, rescaling depth to shallows. I have gone to places I was told not to go, crossed the solid yellow line, police lines, lines in the sand, crashed parties, crashed the gate, snuck backstage with no pass, trespassed, closed mountain passes, into school bathrooms with no pass, tramped woods, dusk till dawn, swam November's tectonic lakes, slipped between locker rooms, between strangers' thighs, didn't keep back, keep still, keep quiet, pressed on, unto, climbed up over transoms to higher ground, underground, tunneled like smoke, blazed into karst, Galilee, vertebra, bathed in gypsum, calcium and carbonite, limestone, rubbed flint until it sparked. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Elisheva Fox.
And everything was fine, and I had no visitors. And now I have my dog who feels like he should participate. This is a new piece, God help me, called Psalm for Judith's Sword. My newly red sink matches the guilty apple, and my newly liberated fingertip curls pearly and fresh and so like the piled peels on a gilt pine cutting board. A lit servant candle melts faster than the candles that count, melts faster than any applesauce can soothe. No skin to stop the stinging pomegranate drops I should have counted, but I lost track after 614, after the sink turned red. Candles die from top to bottom, but I'll die burning from both ends. I don't know another way to care. You unwrap your gift, my gauzy hand, and wince in a way that mirrors how I lean away from hot oil. How angry do you have to be to peel off half of your finger when the apple slips? Angry in a Judith way, love. Angry in a way that matches a slippery world. And then I have one more, a matching poem, because I love Judith the way Sarah loves Esther. This is a psalm for Judith's shield. I remember you were very kind when I showed you the wet, warped rock rose, blooms black, clenched. I remember I laughed something needless and sharp, how I kill beautiful things, how I am hopeless. I made ghosts of all those thorns, so it's the least I can do, make myself bleed since they can't. But I remember, like autumn rain against Texas clay, you were very kind and very patient and very constant. I lost track of time. The flowers didn't. They never do. And that rock rose unfolded tender pearl petals just this morning. And I have flowered and I will flower again and again and again because you taught me I could. You taught me I could grow a miracle here if I wanted, here or even there where the roses died. Where doesn't matter. Wherever you are, I remember. Love is a miracle unclenched. Thank you. There's my dog right there. Oh my God, I'm done.
I love your dog. Thank you, Elisheva. Our next reader is Joanna Furman.
Hi, I'm going to read a poem that was published in the New Review, which is this new Jewish literary magazine. Some of you have been in. Jordan Davis has been publishing it and sending it out. My poem has a slight change from the magazine, so I'll just read it from the screen. It was written as a takeoff of the Joe Brainerd piece, which is called Little Known Facts About People. But this is Little Known Facts About My Family after Joe Brainerd. And it's sort of prosy piece. See if I can get the screen on my, okay, here. Little known facts about my family. Did you know my mother won one of the first television sets in the US? When it arrived, she was disappointed that it wasn't the baby lamb used to draw customers to the supermarket raffle. In college, my father had a crush on Kiki, who would later become known as RBG. He lost a bet, so he had to ask her out. Once, my dad's parents were driving to California so my grandmother could be a movie star. But midway through the journey, they discovered she was pregnant with my dad and drove back. After visiting Auschwitz in college, I ate a personal wood fire pizza covered with pineapple and banana. When my husband and I were both teenagers, I read an article about him interviewing to be a Boy Scout camp counselor. He didn't get the position because he refused to say he believed in God. 14 years later, we met. At my grandmother's Shiva, a relative I had never met before showed me his daughter's Lady Gaga-esque YouTube channel. She has a degree in engineering from Stanford, but she wants to be a pop star, he griped. Did you know my father and his first wife decided to divorce on their honeymoon? My dad and his brother were never close because they each thought the other was their father's favorite. Did you know my dad's second cousin survived World War II? Something about a farm in the French countryside, a bribe, some chickens. Did you know our cat Victor was found on the street because he peed on the eco-poet Brenda Ejima's car? My mother once saw her first husband in a doctor's office in Boynton Beach. It had been more than 50 years since she'd seen him, but she still recognized him. She had hoped he wouldn't recognize her. He didn't. Each time I visited my great aunt, she would show me her fake plant and insist it looked real. When my mom and my aunt planned their first trip to Europe, their grandmother said, "Why do you want to go to Europe? I came from Europe." As a child, I had a recurring nightmare based on a commercial I saw for The Incredible Shrinking Woman starring Lily Tomlin. On my mother's 80th birthday, we all, my father, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, my husband, and me, ate Thanksgiving dinner at a hotel affiliated with the hospital my mother was in. It was the worst stuffing I ever ate. Literally just cubed bread. Did you know for every holiday, I give my father a polo shirt with a pocket? When I looked messy, my mother used to say I looked like a gelcha. I always assumed gelcha was a Yiddish word, but years later, I learned gelcha was the name of the schlubby guy who lived in my great-great-grandmother's village. Between hospital stays, my mom had a dream that her surgeon was named Dr. Angel. When my parents were visiting Cleveland, they spent a lot of time creating stories to explain why their neighbor was sleeping on the couch in the building's lobby. In the pictures of me as a toddler, my mouth is always open. I wish I wasn't afraid to hold my mother's hand when she was in the hospice section of the hospital. My father, now 92, often says, "There's nothing wrong with my hearing. I just don't like to listen." In the picture of my husband as a child, he is holding a red phone headset upside down so the ear part touches his lips. When my mother got sick, my dad finally learned to use the microwave. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joanna. And do look at the comments. We made like a whole Talmudic uh, sort of commentary on your poem. It was great. Our next reader is Jared Harrell.
Hey everybody, thanks so much, Jared. This is really fun and great to read with you all. I'm going to read two poems from my collection that came out last year. The first poem begins in light and ends in darkness, and the second poem begins in darkness and ends in light. Uh, First one's called Good Star. I swear we hadn't seen a good star in years. Just mild brightenings in a skyline sky, or neon decals on our kids' bedtime ceiling, until finally we decided to drive upstate and park beneath a dome of wild darkness. The baby stayed asleep, a galaxy all his own, while you sang Blackbird upon the curved hood, and our daughter blinked up from the edge of the field, head back as if rinsing out shampoo. The night was cold. Her spangly sneakers went black and still, and suddenly I knew that if we did not reach her, something would. Hushed and hidden, yet I failed to speak. Then God, how I raced to face my reward. And the second poem is after Wisława Szymborska's poem On Death Without Exaggeration. I tried to write this poem in her style with all this you know, with kind of that personification and kind of all these examples. And then I wrote this one line, and that became the first line that actually felt true to me. And so I cut everything above it, and now I have this really short poem called On Suffering. To be clear, I'm no expert. I know only that suffering simmers in every heart, singes in plain sight like an electric stove. And though my grandfather told me over and over, I don't know how he made it through bone and mud in some shithole Polish village in 1941, or how he lost everything brutally and kept shuffling into light. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jared. Our next poet is Phil Goldstein.
Thanks, Jared. Great to be with you all tonight. So many beautiful poems already read. Um, Neither of the poems that I'm going to read are explicitly Hanukkah related or religious, but they definitely have this dark light movement, and they're from a collection I'm working on. The first one is called When I Think About There Ever Being Someone Else, and it's taken after Vivi Francis's Thinking About Love Again. When someone you love dies, a part of you dies with them. I read that in a grief support group pamphlet. Really? I mean, really? The truth is, a huge chunk of you goes. A Texas-sized piece of you as Greenland breaks off, sizzles all at once, flooding the seas with everything you'll never hold again. Put that in the pamphlet. If I said I will never love again, would it be because I couldn't, or because I wouldn't allow myself to let the wolves gaze with hunger and lust at the sight of my chest with its still beating heart? They're out there, waiting, aching for scarlet against the snow. And the second one is it's meant to be a poem that someone who has died is gifting to their surviving partner, but only after they're gone. Take heart, beloved, that you can still hear the ancient universe. On May 20th, 1964, at just below the summit of Crawford Hill in Monmouth, New Jersey, two young radio astronomers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, trying to detect the brightness of galaxies, found, as they pointed the Holmdel horn antenna, a persistent hiss, a dull hum, no matter where they turned their radio telescope. And in doing so, they stumbled on something almost numinous, a sigh from so long ago that space-time barely existed, the cosmic microwave background radiation of the early universe as it kept expanding from its super dense, opaque plasma beginning, cooling to the point where protons and electrons became hydrogen and everything became transparent. And after the last scattering surface, the universe had finally cooled just enough to allow photons to speed away across the fledgling cosmos, streaming and racing towards us from the distant past, maybe 400,000 years after the Big Bang, leaving us with this radiation of ancient murmur. And maybe, my beloved, as you're reading this, you know all this, because of course you read it in a newspaper article or a scientific journal, which would be true to who you are and your awe over this kind of thing. It came to mind now because I can deeply sense that you'll feel when I am gone, like one of those photons zooming through the expanse of the young cosmic soup, adrift and not connected to anything at all. And you'll be that way sometimes, but you'll also become part of some new nebula, sparkling in your own corner of the ever-expanding ether. And though you'll be unable to easily detect my presence, I'll be with you, a dim but constant manifestation of what was, and to the best of our knowledge, always will be, expanding out to the edge of what you will perceive as time. Despite unimaginable energies, a primordial singularity, 13.8 billion years have passed, and the cosmic microwave background has continued on. Cataclysm cannot help but leave a mark on what was, but, my darling, that does not mean that what was is lost forever. Listen for it. Feel the shiver of it when you look up at the sky from the cabin at night or on some lonely road, and you will feel me radiating out, ever out, to the end of everything, always there, a deeper dark. Can you feel me out there among the stars? I'm there if you want to seek me out, and remember that everything keeps going.
Thank you, Phil. Our next reader is Josette Akresh Gonzalez.
Awesome. Thank you. This is so much fun. I'm going to read a couple of poems, and one is about winter, and the other one I just wrote yesterday. Oh, okay. All right. Witness. The wolves are back. The wolves in packs of 30 or 40 are back. The gray wolves are back. A photographer, a witness, stays alert, her baggage cinched close. The timber wolves are back on the frozen lake, their mouths open, howl and yip. There are no smells nor signs of wolf because we lack any sense. Wolves smell their prey up to 2 miles away. In some places, it is legal to hunt wolves. A slaughter like this hasn't been seen in a century. Wolves hear a howl in the forest up to 6 miles away. In Wyoming, there is no limit, even wolf pups on private land. Wolves hear a howl on the tundra up to 10 miles away. Men bait and trap the wolves within range, run them down on quad bikes and snowcats, and stalk them after dark. Wolves run fast and travel far in search of prey. Moose, elk, white-tailed deer, mule deer, caribou, musk ox, and bison. In winter, my son, just a baby, cried. I waltzed him outside, still wrapped in a blanket. I sang a wordless melody, and breathed in the fog. Um, and this is the poem I just wrote yesterday. So for all the college professor people, don't get mad, but this is about my son who's he's in finals week and has papers due, a final tomorrow. This poem's called Dew in the Morning. Impossible to watch the sun procrastinate, like watching yourself look over your own shoulder. The youth, the battle, the shoulder you were and the shoulder you made. It's like you're the same person, split lengthwise. Back then, when you were him, you said, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And you're not still saying that. In fact, now the opposite. You're dead tired. At 4 p.m., it's like midnight. 2 days until the winter solstice, and it's raining too. The soft sounds at the window. Now your body curls on the couch with the cats. Low lamplight, mug of tea. Back then, the paper you had to write, due in the morning, and what were you doing all night instead? Walking hand in hand until you were kissing, your knit hats in each other's palms, and the city lights in the reflecting pool beside the dome of the Maparium, getting an education. Maybe you typed your paper from 4 to 8 in the morning with an unironic cigarette break at 5:30 and 7, pacing the cobble street, skipping up the stairs, the sunrise like a faded denim, paper cup of coffee in your thin, icy fingers on the way to class, cross the train tracks, backpack thumping your behind. Over your own shoulder, you watch him procrastinate, play video games, and watch YouTube, claiming he can write 3 essays and study for the math final all in one afternoon. You laugh, the magical thinking. Of course, sounds logical. The oil will burn for 8 days. The studious youth will hide in their cave from the idiots sent from Rome. I'm split, I said in the poem above. The pool reflects too perfectly. The flicker of lights everywhere washes out the stars. Thank you.
Thank you, Josette. Our next reader is Maud Levine.
Okay. I said thanks. It's Lavin, Midwestern pronunciation. Okay, and bigger thanks for, including me in this and for organizing this. I just loved it last year, and I'm so glad to be here this year too. Last year, I read a poem that was, light and hope and fireflies, and this year it's something else. Okay. Harem. I, Maud Lavin, am not a rabbi nor a synagogue leader, but I am a Jew raised in Nowheresville, Ohio, on the idea, among others, that we Jews stand up for the persecuted, that we fight for them, not because of that chosen people bullshit, no, because we, our people, have endured the Holocaust and more. We understand, we know in our bones, we fight with our teeth, with our words for the oppressed. You, Bibi, you offend me deeply, you and your coalition, and the poison you teach your children in the IDF. You are no Jew, Bibi. I disown you. Yet I cannot cancel your Judaism much as I'd like to. Instead, I perform a harem. I blow the shofar. I light black candles. I curse you, your fellow murderers of Palestinians, you genocidal wolves. I take the authority to issue a harem as a member of the diasporic Jewish community. We will now shun you, you and any who kill the oppressed. I learned the ancient meaning of Harem was to destroy cities captured in war. Is that what you claim to be doing? Is that what you call your unholy genocide and land grab? Is that what you call teaching your IDF children to shoot Palestinian children in Gaza? But you see, the word evolved to mean throwing a Jew out of the Jewish community. I, as a writer, choose this meaning of the word, and I order you to go. I exclude you. And now, smother the candles. You will have no more contact with other Jews, no words, no proximity. It is done. Wasn't that sweet?
Thank you, Maud. Our next reader is Erica Meitner.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? I
Yep.
apologize for being late. I was stuck in the very special Kafkaesque hell that is online with my health insurance, waiting for something to be approved. And if I hung up, they would send me back to the same Kafkaesque hell. Um, I have a Hanukkah poem. My poems are long, so I'm just going to read one. And it's an actual Hanukkah poem I've never read because, like, when do you ever get to read a long Hanukkah poem? Never. No one ever wants to hear a Hanukkah poem. So thank you, Jared. This is it. I've never read this. Um, the only pieces of information you need to know about this is my son, who's in the poem, is adopted, and it will help make the poem make more sense. And also, this goes out to anyone else who has a sort of Jewish Sicilian mother who has the like dead to them list on the refrigerator. Yeah, everyone's nodding, you know. Insane flying machines. What's in the box? Tonight's present contains 10 wings, 10 tails, 10 rudders, 2 fuselages for assembly. We turn off NPR in the middle of the train derailment story. 4 dead, maybe faulty brakes to blame, and congregate to bless the candles, which flare orange and run wax rivers onto the counter until they eventually extinguish themselves in delicate curls of smoke. Because the Gemara says place the menorah next to the window facing the street, we also twist the orange bulbs of my grandmother's plastic electric on the sill, left over from a time when plugs had 2 prongs, which makes me nervous since the local news is all house fires and break-ins until Christmas. The Gemara says in times of danger, placing the menorah on a table indoors will suffice. At Hanukkah, we celebrate the Maccabees, their victory over the forces of King Antiochus, or the miracle of the temple oil lasting and lasting. Danger includes all types of danger. The local student who set himself on fire, concocting butane hash oil. Those people on the train. What's in the box? Weary commuters sleeping with earbuds, leaning their heads against the window on a Sunday, while a conductor works his way down the aisle with his hole punch. What's in the box? A metal xylophone and a yellow mallet. Together they play music. Earlier today, my son sits on my lap in a booth lined in carpet, while an audiologist, a woman with very straight hair, the color of butterscotch, talks to him, makes boxes hung in each corner light up when she says his name from one speaker or the other. Levi, she says, again and again, into her microphone. Before his name was Levi, it was King. What's in the box? Antiochus, us. We watch her lips through plexiglass, but it's not clear if he can actually hear her words from the right or left, though he looks sharply when one speaker, for a moment, pops static. In the next room, the doctor tells me my son has fluid behind both eardrums and says his son is adopted too, from Utah, and he thought about naming his son Utah, but his wife intervened. Interventions are by their very nature dangerous. That train, the news says some passengers were flung from the windows. The news says the less wounded help the more seriously injured. One car nearly went into the river, but it didn't. I do not want my son to be put under, to get tubes in his ears. He is scooting everywhere, takes 4 steps at a clip, isn't yet a year. presses his small hand hard to the lump that's grown above my breast and below my voice box. My mother beat breast cancer and now sees a meditation teacher at Memorial Sloan Kettering to calm herself as part of a holistic wellness program. But her practice does not often calm her when she's on the phone yelling, "If you visit that bitch, don't bother coming home," and then hangs up on me. She is talking about my aunt, her dead to her sister, and when I recount her anger to friends, they counter with tales of aunts and grandmothers who hold similar vendettas, this fierceness that grows rather than dulls with age. What's in the box? An entire series of Captain Underpants books, a Nerf turbo football, a keyboard made of electronic flowers. My sister and I discuss my mother at length behind closed doors, and every time it ends in "What's in the box?" The Holocaust, our grandmother's time in the camps. The Gemara says danger includes all types of danger, like Gentiles stealing lights or throwing stones. War, scarcity, oppression, darkness. Hanukkah and Thanksgiving won't intersect again for 76,000 years. And there are my sons, the older assembling cardboard airplanes, the younger pressing rainbow flowers, which sound notes of electronic joy. What's in the box? Anger that does not dissipate with time. Chaos, bubble wrap, Hot Wheels, a plastic racing track. We are fine. We are not fine. This holiday of miracles or war or light, depending on the year, the spin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. Our final reader is Hila Ratsabi.
Thank you. I'm going to read one poem that I wrote about a year plus ago, and then I'll read one from my book. This is called What Use is Memory? October 19th, 2023. I touch the rug as I inhale and begin. 18 breaths, my friend said. 18 breaths for peace. Send breath to the hostages, light surrounding each face. Send breath to the broken families, the grieving, the trembling, the displaced from Kibbutz Be'eri, from Kiryat Shmona, the displaced from Khan Yunis, from Jabalia. Send breath over crumbled homes and all those missing. I breathe. I try to breathe. Press my fingers into the rug. Threads tickle my skin. An animal in my hands. Soft comfort, no bite. I dig my toes into the rug. I am here. I am here. Not there. The fibers tickle my toes like grass, my bare feet creeping off the picnic blanket at the pool that summer. Like so many summers, we return to Rehovot where I was born, where the wars that crushed and molded that land were hidden in sunlit dust. Wars I'd only just missed. Wars never mentioned at barbecues in Jerusalem parks, with crowds of cousins passing watermelon slices as shawarma smoked on the grill. Those long days at Palmachim Beach, playing matkot and sheshbesh. I didn't think about the name Palmach, the underground army that fought to claim this land. I'm sorry, that land. I forget where I am. That land, made of war and empty villages. No one told me who was missing or how they left. No one told me about the places we left, Yugoslavia, Yemen, or the people left behind, the mother, sister, brother in the photograph who didn't follow Saftadina to Palestine in 1930. How long did she wait for them? When did she first hear the name Treblinka? That land, I've never seen it this way. Burned houses, quiet roads. No one honks anymore, my cousin tells me. I try to breathe, to touch sand, grass, skin, send breath, send light. But what use is breath? What use is memory when I'm here in this other country, while over there everything burns? And this one is in my book, There Are Still Woods. And I wrote this one the day after the 2016 election. But I think it ends on a positive note-ish. So that's why I chose it. I hope that there is some alchemy in this magic thing in the poem. Let's see. How It Happened. November 2016. When the moon falls out of the sky, we stop our cars by the side of the highway and open our mouths. The light pours through our fingertips. We glow in the dark with rage. Lit by our own insides, we search for the ones still covered in darkness. We light up trees with our touch, place our hands on mammals we used to hunt. No need for food now that we are plugged into the fire left over from the sun. The silver settles within our blood. We lift our hands to the ink dark sky and fold down a corner to dog ear the night. We will want to remember how it happened, that the scenery held in place by such thin and fraying strings came crashing down, not with a thud, but with the tinny sound of spilled light. And how we didn't see it coming, nor did we expect the light to land in the rivers of our throats. How quickly the sky was done with its light, and how fitting our bodies were to catch it and turn it to song. Oops.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And thank you so much to everyone who read today and all of you who came to watch us. This has been a wonderful reading and happy Hanukkah, everyone.